experiencing success, talking about L&D being holistic rather than being isolated, and L&D as a business partner. So some very important takeaways. Can I request Warren now to take the stage and talk about his experiences in leading L&D? Yes.
While we set up the presentation, on a lighter note, Manjima spoke about itching. We were all sort of waiting in the lounge, and in the interest of time we said, so how do we as speakers ensure that we don't sort of overstep 10 minutes? And Indrajit also spoke about the fact that we have a good sense of humor. We said when the speaker exceeds his time limit, we need to start itching. I suddenly realized that I've almost peeled off the skin of my cheek. Great. Let me have the presentation now. Sandra seems to have disappeared. Cool. Okay, nevertheless, ladies and gentlemen, it's indeed a gratifying moment for me to be present here today at the CLO Summit and share my views with such an esteemed audience. My finest compliments to Leapboard for getting the entire HR fraternity, L&D fraternity, leading CEOs, leaders, thought leaders, and L&D folks from the fraternity all under one roof for exchanging ideas and deliberating on learning and development. I do sense a highly charged environment in the atmosphere here, so I must say it is dampened a little, I guess because of post-lunch sessions, and a lot of bright faces, contagious energy and optimism is what I see. So I'm going to start with a small story. There was this person called Mr. Stakeholder, and Mr. Stakeholder was hospitalized, and the CLO decides to visit him in the hospital. And when the CLO nears the Mr. Stakeholder's bed, his condition seems to deteriorate. And Mr. Stakeholder motions, to the other people in the room to hand over a piece of paper and a pen to him. Now the CLO, very lovingly takes out a piece of paper and a pen and hands it over to Mr. Stakeholder. Now before Mr. CLO is able to read what is written in the note, the stakeholder dies. And the CLO, realizing that it was a grim moment, doesn't open and read the note. But at the funeral, while speaking, Mr. CLO suddenly remembers the note, and he pulls out the note, and he says, ladies and gentlemen, I suddenly remembered that Mr. Stakeholder, just before he died, handed over me a note. And he puts his hand in his pocket, and he wrenches out the note, and tries to read the note, which says, Mr. CLO, you are standing on my oxygen tube. Ladies and gentlemen, my first question to you is, are we really paying attention, adequate attention, to what our stakeholders really need and what they are really saying? And even if we are paying adequate attention, is it enough? Or do you really need a seat along with business stakeholders on the table? And now, is that enough? Or do you really need to be a respected voice on the table? Business is about putting your numbers up. It is about presenting your point of view. It's about strategically influencing your stakeholders. It's not about the kumbaya, hold your hands and sing the people's, preach people's approach. At Yes Bank, our endeavor has constantly been to envision and deploy learning solutions that build the capability, the capacity, and the confidence of Yes Bankers for enhancing business performance and for really making Yes Bank the finest quality large bank in India by 2020. For us, this vision begins with a simple truth that new ideas are essential if learning really has to take place. Sometimes these ideas are created de novo from the beginning, or sometimes they happen through flashes of design thinking, innovation, creativity and entrepreneurship. Sometimes these ideas come from outside the bank, and sometimes these ideas come from knowledgeable insiders. But whatever the source may be, these ideas are the trigger for organizational improvement. But they themselves cannot create a learning organization. In the last 10 years, what we have witnessed is that creating the conditions for learning and for creating a large, massive, complex change has been very daunting. But at Yes Bank, we made a clear choice to constantly invest in learning solutions that are outcome focused, which are deliberately crafted, which is emotionally engaging, and which is very uniquely Yes Bank. In my journey as an L&D professional over the past so many years, in my opinion, to really increase the success of learning programs, I would say let's focus on 3 components. The first component is know your organization's strategic vision and priorities. Extremely crucial. You know, the turbulent economy of the past few years has even seemingly put the recession-free industries like pharma and utilities on the edge. You know, such volatility often makes it easier to think, of the immediate need rather than addressing long-term priorities and strategic goals. But what's crucial is to have a foresight on what is required from a long-term perspective and not just address what is the need of the hour. So I would say make it your survival paranoia to know your organization's strategic vision and priorities, and keep these priorities at the forefront when you design learning programs. Some of the examples of Yes Bank's strategic priorities are to be the finest quality large bank in India by 2020. For us to increase the overall trust index in the bank, to make Yes Bank a great place to work. For us to increase scalability, skills and speed at an individual level. For us to enable envisioning of scale at a business unit level, and then execution of that scale as collaborative units. For us to build a service culture focused on improving productivity, focused on improving cross-sell. The second point, in my opinion, which is important to increase the success of learning programs in an organization, is to align the mindset of the L&D function and then L&D solutions in line with the overall strategic priorities of the organization. And some of the key points of consideration for you is to take a step back and really think, is the mindset of your L&D team aligned? At Yes Bank, we believe that the right mindset will lead to mind share and which will lead to market share for you as L&D professionals. The second point is, how can L&D solutions be aligned to long-term strategic goals? Or how do you align that as an L&D function? At Yes Bank, we follow 3 steps. One is visualize, strategize, and actualize. Visualize the outcome. That outcome helps you develop your learning solution, your strategy, your way of deployment, and finally, ruthless execution. The third point that I'd like to focus on is, as L&D professionals, how do you really focus on creating competencies for the future? At Yes Bank, our focus is to develop competencies on design thinking, innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurship. A recent BCT report also said that these are going to be the competencies of the future. DICE, design thinking, innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurship. And once the top leadership team knows that you are actually focusing on the same goals as they are, half the battle is won. I'd like to cite some examples of L&D solutions which are focused on Yes Bank priorities. When we set on this journey from 15 to 20, the big question which the bank was asking is, how do you really align the leadership mindset, the top team, which is when we as the L&D team took the step forward and conceptualized something called Where Eagles Dare. But even before that, we felt the need to align the mindset of the top team, and which is when we got Ram Charan to do an exclusive session on executing strategies for growth for the entire top management team. That set the ball rolling, because that set the ball rolling in the sense it gave leaders a very clear-cut map in terms of how to increase personal capacity, how to expand organizational capacity, and how to increase scalability, skills, and speed. The next step was, how do you align business units for 2020? That's where the L&D team conceptualized a series called Where Eagles Dare, which was about getting all the business units to envision business, scale at a business level, and subsequently get together and execute scale as collaborative units. This was a business workshop, and normally L&D teams don't get into this kind of space. But what we partnered and got business to do was to really look at where they were at that point in time in 2020, to really look at competition landscape, to really look at their SWOT, to really look at what is the aspirational metrics that they're looking at driving in 2020. For them to really define what is it that they should be doing till now which they're not doing. For them to define what is it that they shouldn't be doing till now which they are doing. And then agree on a business plan. And then sign off between business stakeholders and support groups. So what really happened as an outcome of the program is that a tacit understanding agreement happened on the overall strategy for 2020. That's the role L&D played. We also focused on making Yes Bank a great place to work, which is where we launched the series called Lead with Passion, which was essentially woven around the dimensions of a great place to work, which is about credibility, respect, pride, camaraderie, and fairness. What happened as an outcome was the trust index progressively increased over the past 3 years. And this was not only an L&D solution in isolation, but a host of other initiatives which the L&D team took in partnership with multiple stakeholders in the bank. Yes Surge was an outcome of the execution initiative that we took, but rolled out at a senior management and middle management levels. And finally, to really prepare the bank for the future, we got Porter Rishman, co-founder with Jack Ma, who set up Alibaba, to come and really spend time with our top team and the one down below to really figure out how can we become the e-commerce company in banking, how can we become a technology company in the business of banking. And as we speak, the next levels of leadership are going to go through an extensive workshop to prepare them for competencies for 2020. The third point that I'd like to emphasize, which is crucial, is pitch it like you're the CFO and build it with metrics. I recently heard a joke. It's a training joke. It's serious. And it has a message. So the CFO tells the CLO, what if we invest in people and if they leave? And the CLO says, what if we don't and they stay? As L&D professionals, we always fussed about, is the top team going to really see value in what we're doing? And it's easy. It's easy. Because if you as an L&D team can demonstrate tangible outcomes as far as performance and productivity metrics are concerned, you have the top team on your side. But this will require all of us to really keep our traditional HR and L&D hat aside and to really think about what really helps us create organizational value. At Yes Bank, we have aligned all the L&D solutions, keeping in mind the outcomes, and we strictly follow the CII HR excellence model, which is the radar model: results, approach, deployment, assessment, and refinement. So you start with the results in mind, because that changes the orientation of the entire design of the learning solution, right? And when you do that, it helps you sharply define how should you go about approaching and deploying the learning solution on ground. Followed by, how do you really assess and refine this L&D solution going forward? So radar is something which is very, very sort of core to us as far as learning solutions in Yes Bank are concerned. And to conclude, I would like to invoke the divine blessings and use the analogy of the popular Hindu deities, Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh, to very aptly explain how to increase and sustain the success of learning solutions in an organization. So like Vishnu, L&D must preserve its core. So keep doing the BAU, the mundane, product, process, functional, behavioral, but try and adopt low-cost and scalable methods of deployment. Like Shiva, L&D must destroy unproductive vestiges of the past. Stop having the mindset of an order taker or a coordinator of training programs who only engages with the Spock who's identified in business, but rather engage directly with the business heads so that you can strategically influence them and present your point of view. And the third, like Brahma, the creator, L&D must create a potent new future which will replenish what time and circumstances destroyed. Preservation, conservation, destruction is a continuous process without any beginning or an end. And consistent with this philosophy, the work of L&D in an organization is a constant rhythmic process, one which never ends. And last but not the least, I would like to once again thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity to share my views with all of you on increasing the success of learning programs. And I hope, all of us here over the past 2 days have learned and have experienced. And I wish you all the very best. And I hope that the learnings gleaned in the last 2 days will spur all of us to become more innovative and entrepreneurial professionals, L&D professionals of the future. Thank you and wish you all the best.
Listening to our stakeholders, which is extremely critical. What is long-term versus short-term? And I really like the model you spoke about, both from execution and getting on to the Brahma. I am sure. I think that's really talking about a cyclical process that never ends. That's a very important takeaway. So, with that, can I ask Chandra to now talk to the audience about his experiences?
Everybody has heard me right. I don't have any presentation now. Okay? Everybody is happy. Okay. Just like to share with you all, there was a similar program and I'm always honored as the last speaker. And I'm sorry, today I am the second last speaker. Surprisingly, the person besides me, he did this way and said, you know what our presentation is all about? You don't say anything and we understand. Okay? But since I have been invited here, let me take a couple of minutes, which they have already exhausted. Then also let me try and keep it as crisp as possible. The topic is increasing the success of organizational learning programs. I wish to deal this topic only in two simple parts. Success. Okay, the key word in this is success. What is success? Success, according to me, is a very relative term. What success is to me, it may not be a success to you. Please try and understand this. Success, year after year, the same programs may not give you the success, the similar success. Now, if success is relative, we need to understand who is going to validate, who is going to certify this success. Obviously, the CEO or the board of directors, they are going to say, okay, my CLO is doing a good job. If the CEO or the board of directors, if they have to decide, do we have enough alignment with them? What do they require? In 2010, there was a survey done. CEOs were asked what kind of expectations you have from learning programs. At the end, what they deliver? There were 8 attributes, right from impact, ROI, to checking how many mandates, how many training interventions. There were 8. Surprisingly, what we measure as a metric, what Warren also said, very importantly, you need to have a metric in place. The metrics which most of the companies they measure is number of training mandates. Those were the least what the CEOs were expecting. So what were they expecting? On impact, the CEO said that it's about 8% what they use as a metric, but they wish to have it to 96%. The reaction, that is when participants attend a training program, you ask them, how did you find the program? The reaction, they say